Mojo 50.
And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Americanuck Radio. News, opinion, and a little irreverence from both sides of the 49th parallel. This is Americanuck Radio with Mike Filip.
Everywhere around the world, they come into America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America.
Americanuck Radio.
Dream to take them there. They come into America. Got a dream there.
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio, everybody, on Mojo 50, WBN 324, and the Stu Peters Network on Rumble, and on the Americanuck Radio page. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We've been doing some really deep Bible study over the last week, talking about doctrine and the entrance to the kingdom. Important stuff. Today we're going to talk about something completely different, though, and that is rekindling the American dream. I am somebody that loves the United States of America. I do. I always have. I got a thing for it, I got to say. Now, people want prosperity. They want freedom. They want a better life. And the people of Alberta have been oppressed and ripped off and stepped on and insulted. There's a long train of grievances here with our confederation that we call Canada. And I've been part of a movement for a very, very long time to see Alberta cut ties with Canada and become a state in the Union, the United States of America. I've debated this. I've thought about it. When I first started out, probably in high school, and I'm 48, there was guys holding meetings in the town that I lived in for the state of Buffalo. They wanted to just separate from Canada and become an independent nation. And so I was going to these meetings when I was a very young guy. When I was in high school, I was thinking about this. And over the years, my thinking changed to see it as a no-brainer to join the United States of America. Now, the situation in the United States has changed a lot since that time. There are people that will bring up disadvantages to that, and that's fine. We can discuss that. Usually the one that comes up is healthcare, but we're being told flat out right now across Canada on media and that the healthcare system as we know it in Canada is basically crumbling. It's not going to be there the way that people remember it, and so it's time to figure out a better deal. It's time to seek greener pastures, and Greg Meakin, who I usually have on Fridays with me for Dueling-Citizens, is a doer. He's a guy that gets in there and gets his hands dirty and works and tries to promote ideas and get people to do things. And Greg has come up with an idea for a referendum for Alberta citizens that you can go and sign if you think this would be a better idea for us to cut ties with Canada. And there's a lot of Americans that are watching this right now that are thinking, no, Mike, you don't want that. It's horrible. No, you don't understand. You don't understand. And we want to make it clear to you for the course of this show why it would be better, not just for us, but for America as well. Okay, this is to strengthen and bring America back to its original roots. Okay, we want to make America strong. We want to make it. Somebody once said, "Make it great again," something like that. And we want to bring America back to what it was supposed to be. Now, we've got Greg on, but I'm going to start out by playing an intro that Chris Brennan, one of the other hosts here at Mojo 50, made for us. And it's about Canada Day and Alberta. And we're going to play that. Then we're going to bring Greg in to talk about his referendum, which you can access. It's posted at Americanuckradio.com, the URL that's right underneath me there. That is our website for this show. And we're going to be bringing in some guests today. We're going to be talking to Val Olson. She's an Albertan living in Arizona near Greg, and she has media experience. She's also somebody that's working toward this. We also have Gordon Kessler is going to be joining us, and he is going to be weighing in because he is somebody that's been in this game for a very long time. So we're going to we're not going to do Bible study today. That is in no way to diminish from what we normally do. I just feel like doing something different today, and my good friend Greg is working to make something happen. Dream big. Dream big. Want something better than your situation. And we've got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to cut to that video that Chris made. Then we're going to bring in Greg. And this is going to be a good conversation.
In 2022, woke Canada tried to cancel Canada Day. The United States is happy to oblige and proudly declares July 1st, 2023, Alberta 51 Independence Day. Canada Day is now Independence Day for Alberta, USA. Let's celebrate Alberta. Let's celebrate America. Let's celebrate freedom. Now is the time to fly. Now is the time. There will never be a better time for Alberta 51. Calgary, Edmonton, Banff. Let freedom ring. Soar to new heights of freedom. Reach for the clouds. The United States of America wants Alberta back in the family of freedom. Alberta 51. Referendum 2023. Vote for freedom.
I forgot how poignant to this whole deal that video was, Greg. And Chris did a really good job of that. And that's the thing, Greg. This has activated the imagination of a lot of people on both sides of the 49th parallel, not just in Alberta, but in the United States as well. We have regular listeners that I've brought this issue up to over the last 3 years since we've been on Mojo 50. And indeed, before that, when I was on the Genesis Communications network, right before Roger Stone, when Americanuck Radio started out, we would do shows on this. Now, my views on it have changed slightly, but the foundation remains the same. And Greg, I'm so happy that you have done all this work to produce a document that people can go and sign. And I see this as an exciting opportunity for the people of Alberta. And not only has it activated the imaginations of people in the United States, but there are many people across Canada who are looking at Alberta right now like a lot of Americans are looking at Florida and South Dakota. And I've heard from people in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, all across this confederacy called Canada, that if Alberta does this, they're moving here and they're bringing their intelligence, their skills, their talent, their young families. This could be a very good thing. Welcome back to Americanuck Radio, Greg.
Boy, I can't believe it's been 23 episodes, my friend, of Dueling-Citizens. I think I told you, I feel like I've been working with you for 20 years, man. This is great, Mike. This is a big, big day for Alberta. Listening to, I'm only on audio here. I don't have the visual, but listening to that Chris Branham's production of the video for Canada Day with that incredible fly over the Blue Angels. What I mentioned to you before the show is that date. That date, July 1st and Canada Day, really spurred something in me when Canada decided to cancel it. We remember last year.
I do.
Where the snowbirds magically had a mechanical failure and couldn't do a flyover of Ottawa, and you remember Winnipeg wanted to change the day and so forth. So that really spurred something in me, and that was way back. I knew when we produced that video, July 1st, is now Alberta Independence Day. We'll be happy to accommodate you if you want to give it up, Canada. But I knew when that video was produced that looking forward to July 1st, 2023, that June 30th, the day before, was going to be Alberta 51 referendum day. And there's been lots of talk, lots of shows, lots of conversations to that end. There are a lot of people watching this movement, Mike. As you know, there's a lot of people north and south of the border, and goodness gracious, around the world for that matter.
Yeah, no doubt.
June 30th. June 30th this year, and there'll be lots of info coming forth, will be a time when voters in Alberta, this is for registered Alberta voters only, because everyone else is just spectators, like me. I'm a spectator. I don't vote in Alberta. But registered Alberta voters are going to have their opportunity to have their voice heard. There's going to be a referendum question directly to them, and it will be, do you want Alberta to be the 51st state of the United States? Yes or no?
Just that simple.
A referendum, just that simple. A referendum, Mike, is a question, a direct question. You're going to get me fired up already here. A direct question to the Alberta voters, yes or no. Nobody else is invited to the party here from that standpoint.
We just had a listener in High River, Alberta, Greg, Madeline in High River. She said, I'd love to vote for joining the USA. How do we do it? There's one right there. Nice. And just from a quick logistics standpoint, Mike, as the memo, I just wrote a memo to Alberta voters, a memo, not a press release to the media, not a cluing in politicians about it. This is a memo directly to the Alberta voters saying, hey, you can have an opportunity to vote. It can be online or in person. I'm guessing second or third week of February, there'll be an official website launched. You can do it online, again, or you can do it in person. June 30th, 2023, there is going to be a big event. Boots on the ground up in Alberta. As we speak, we're already identifying the site, Mike. I think I told you that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there's going to be a big old rodeo, Mike. And Albertans will have the choice, and no one's going to get in the way of their choice. No politician, no media, no spinmeisters, no security government agencies. Are you kidding me? They're going to have the opportunity to vote. And there's going to be a lot published about it. Again, like you mentioned, you've got the memo on the Americanuck website. I just placed literally the memo on my website, gregmeakin.com, in the trending section. This, Mike, is breaking news, and I told you this, I wanted to break this with you. Oh, I appreciate that.
And you know what, Mike? We are. And today's the day we're breaking it, Mike.
Yeah, this has been called the deal of a century. I mean, the amount of wealth that Alberta has been able to generate, even amongst the oppressive condition it's been under in Canada, in spite of everything against this province. I mean, the people of Alberta have the spirit and the drive and the know-how, a young population. This Alberta as a state could have a GDP that is every bit as high as, let's say, Texas or California even. And by the way, Greg, I know you can't see me because I've got you on phone, but I'm wearing my Alberta Statehood t-shirt and my Alberta State Seal hat. It's got the U.S. flag on one side and the crest of Alberta on the other. And so I've got my gear on, looking the part today. And if anybody wants to get more of that stuff, you can go to. I don't have a lot of it anymore. I've got about 5 hats left, but I think that there's a man named Terrace Kobaya on the 51st State group on Facebook, which has about 10,000 members, and I think he's got loads of that stuff. But you can find it over in there, and so. And I still, by the way, Benjamin Ebel has still not allowed me to post this show in the 51st State group. You too good for me,
Maybe
Ben?
Is
that what this is? Praise God. And so let's talk about what led you to this decision. You're not even from Alberta, but this captured your imagination. And then we're going to bring in Val in a bit here, and we're going to bring in Gordon Kessler, and we'll be addressing questions in the Americanuck Radio chat room and also on the chat section of the Rumble channel, Americanuck Radio. And like I said, I told my mom this morning, I said, we're not going to be doing Bible study today, Mom, and we're going to do a little bit of politics with Greg. And she said, you know what? I don't mind if you do that once in a while. Just don't make a habit of it. And so I have my mom's permission to talk about something else today. So that's a good thing.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'm friends with your mom on Facebook. She's an awesome person, Mike. She's an awesome person. She looks out for you, doesn't she? Yeah. You know, what prompted me to do this, really, this started in 1976, Quebec, Mike. We've talked about it so many times. And as people might or might know, I have so many of our clips, Mike, going back to last year and talking about issues like this, and issues one after another after another. And they're on my YouTube channel, which is Greg Meakin. And what prompted me started in 1976 during the separatist movement in Quebec. We've talked about it. I lived under martial law. I know what socialism feels like. I know what oppression feels like. I feel like I didn't have any say in anything. I was an English kid in Quebec, go figure. Yeah. But so I watched that stuff, and then I watched the 2 referendums. I voted in 2 provincial referendums, Mike. Yeah. So I was involved, and at the time I did not for a minute want, I was a nationalist. I didn't want Quebec to become sovereign at the time. But that literally carried through. I mean, I think I told you, I did my first political article. I didn't even realize this till I did my body of work in 1978 on Pierre Elliott Trudeau. I covered him in the press pool back then. I didn't know politics from Adam back then, but I did the story. Mm-hmm. That was 1978. But now, when I watch the evolution of Canada, I call it the old Canada and the new Canada. The old Canada is what I was raised with. We've talked about this so many times, Mike. 1950s handshake world. We all loved and trusted each other. We all had our local barber, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a new Canada, and it's full of the nonsense and the garbage that we've seen for the last 5 years, especially, in the woke world. And every single day there's a new news story about just the nonsense that's going on with through the educational system, throughout the political system, et cetera. So this is very, very close to my heart. And when a couple of years ago I was introduced to the concept of the Alberta USA movement, and this was a totally different cat, Mike, to the Quebec movement. Number one, above all else, Quebec is a recipient of money and attention and everything else from the rest of Canada, including Western Canada, including equalization's monies, Mike. But Alberta is the one that's paying out. They're the one that's paying the bills. What was it, $20 billion or something? I heard last number on Alberta equalization. Not sure what the current number is.
It's a huge amount. But listen, look, I will say this in defense of Quebec, they're smart. I mean, if you can have enough, like, okay, so for Americans watching this right now, what Greg is talking about, the Equalization Act basically robs the province of Alberta of billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. And what it was devised as or sold as was a way to take from the rich and give to the poor, right? From the have provinces and give them to the have not provinces. Well, number one, there's no reason whatsoever Quebec should be a have not province. They've got a huge amount of resources of their own, with farming, mining, with forestry, maple syrup. I mean, their dairy cartel.
Hydroelectric.
But here's the thing. It damages them as well, because it gives them a kind of like a single mother is given more welfare if she has more children and doesn't go to work. It's kind of the same thing with Quebec. And Quebec even has a burgeoning join the USA movement, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. Yes. That's the Party 51 in Quebec. And the difference, though, Mike, you're bringing up cool points here. The difference to me with Alberta and anything back east, including Quebec, is Alberta has got the third richest, quote, province country in oil reserves in the world.
Yeah.
And they are, again, paying all those monies out, but they're a very, very attractive commodity. Alberta is really to the rest of the world. They've got oil. They've got an incredible workforce. They've got generally a conservative, traditional population. Alberta could be the gift to the world, and Eastern Canada doesn't appreciate it. That's fine. However, the movement to have Alberta become the 51st state, it's as huge for Albertans. Of course, can you imagine gas half the price, taxes less than half the price, no carbon taxes, no provincial taxes, no equalization monies, no on and on. So the benefits are there, but the huge benefits to America. We're talking oil reserves, and America would love to partner with you on that and not steal all that oil from you in the form of equalization.
Yeah, the other thing, too,
it's a win-win situation. This is a different gig from anything back east, Mike.
I'll tell you what else, too, and this is something else that's crossed my mind recently. I've been following stories where the government of Canada is taking lithium mines and handing them over to China, and seems intent on propping up the Chinese Communist Party. This is of strategic value to the United States as well. And the other thing that needs to come into the conversation is a land bridge which would be created all the way to Alaska. The trade that would go on with Alberta and the energy independence that America would gain by having Alberta in the fold, not to mention the say in how government affairs are conducted, which Alberta does not have right now due to the distribution of seats in the House of Commons. America never, ever poo-poo the genius of the Electoral College and the three-ring circus, as they call it, of Congress, the judiciary, and the executive branch, the way that the founders geniusly set it up. I mean, we wish we had that here. That's something that people want. A lot of Americans have learned to take it for granted. We've got a question over in the chat room. Madeline says, what about my pension? It's Government of Canada. Yeah, the CPP, Canada Pension Plan. That's a legitimate concern, and you're right to bring it up, and it's something that needs to be talked about. But at the end of the day, think about what Alberta could do in terms of pensions without sending $20 billion a year to Quebec. Alberta could afford to double your pension, quite honestly, on its own, especially with the backing of the United States and a strengthening of the U.S. dollar, which is in trouble right now because Bretton Woods and the U.S. petrodollar is in trouble. Saudi Arabia is going to be collecting in other denominations. And so this is a time when America needs all the help it can get, and I think that Alberta would be a very strong partner and a welcome addition. Let's put it that way. Greg, we've got to go to our commercial break. Should we do that right now? Let's go to our commercial break for our sponsors at Mojo 50.
And let Maryland know. The cool thing is, the short answer here is pensions will be guaranteed by the U.S. government, just like Social Security. But that's further down the road as far as conversation. But no worries at all.
We've been seeing Mojo guys over there and over here at Spoonie talk about Atrantil for bloating. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more.
Commercial break for the sponsors at Mojo 50. We'll be back right after this. Alberta 51 statehood referendum coming soon.
You want to wake up refreshed, like you slept on a cloud? Get yourself the very best in bedding supplies today. You deserve it. Go to MyPillow.com. And don't forget our very special promo code, Mojo50, for incredible savings.
At Romika Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. And if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logoed designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Romika Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
5 major food distributors have suffered explosions at food processing and storage facilities in the last few months. 20 more facilities have been destroyed by fires over the last 4 months. War in Ukraine drags on and holds the looming threat of nuclear escalation. U.S. inflation is officially reported above 8%. Mobs of people are whipped into frenzy by an increasingly unstable class of political elites. We live in interesting times. Political, economic, and financial collapse are all very real threats to our way of life. If the worst happens, make sure you and your loved ones are prepared with emergency food and supplies from preparewithmojo50.com. That's preparewithmojo50.com. Coffee lovers everywhere now have the opportunity to do their part to save the planet with Al Gore's lab-grown coffee substitute. We, here at Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change, believe this is a terrible idea. While man-bun-wearing, soy latte-loving poodle walkers everywhere are in love with the eco-friendly lab-grown sadness water, Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change want to see the sea levels rise, and for New York City to join the lost city of Atlantis, 12,000 leagues beneath the sea.
American Pride Roasters, historically great coffee. Every pot brewed is an eco-disaster 100 times greater than the Fukushima extinction level event. So order yours today and do your part to hasten the end of the planet. You don't want to live forever, do you? AmericanPrideRoasters.com. That's AmericanPrideRoasters.com.
How dare you?
We dare. We dare.
Flat Earth, the moon landing, JFK, 5G, Biden won the election. Hey, lovelies, does anyone have any new conspiracy theories? Because all the ones I know are contrary. Join me, Ria Bow, here on Sunday Long Live Radio, live every Sunday of the year, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard, 10 a.m. UK, and 9 p.m. New South Wales. I'll see you Sunday.
Americanuck Radio.
I would say the world's most underrated radio shows. Americanuck Radio. This guy, Mike Filip, is brilliant. I listen to him every day. Love your show. I really do. I'm a huge fan. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Americanuck Radio.
Thanks, Stu Peters. You're all right, too.
Americanuck Radio.
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio. We've got Greg Meakin, as usual, on Fridays, and we're going to be bringing in Val Olson and Gordon Kessler in the second hour, first and second segment, to be talking about this issue. We would have got Ben Ebel on, but he just had no interest in being part of it. I thought you were hardcore, man. I'm just messing with you, Ben. What I like about this is that it's grassroots. Anytime Canadian media jumps on board with things, it puts almost an irreversible stink on it, Greg. If you look at it, and honestly, I've seen a lot of games played in this arena for a very long time. The sentiment in Alberta to cut ties with Canada and do something different and get a better deal has been around for a very, very long time. And I've seen them play games before where they placate people and then bring them right back around to the Conservative Party of Canada. And it feels to me, actually, like Danielle Smith is playing that same game today. Oh, no, we've got to be part of Canada. No, it's time to do something different. There's always going to be a Trudeau or an Omar Algebra or a Chrystia Freeland around the corner, as long as we're tied to Canada. And they'll bide their time. They'll let you have a little bit of what you want until you're satisfied to sit at home, eat your dollar store Cheetos, and watch the Edmonton Elks, which is a stupid name. But seriously, it's time to stop playing games for Albertans and time to do something different. And with the geopolitical situation worldwide, America needs to be strengthened and get back to its roots. Greg?
You're nailing it on the head here. Every Albertan that I've chatted with and corresponded with, there's an incredible frustration, Mike. There's an incredible frustration because they're treated like second-rate citizens to the East Coast. It just is.
Yep.
They just are. And the general malaise I feel from folks, and there's some of that in the United States now too, but the general malaise I feel up there is they can't do anything about it. Their vote doesn't count.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I mean,
right?
And that's across the board. I feel that same way in a lot of ways, but people like Ronald Reagan knew that if he talked directly to the American voter, and in this case directly, I'm talking directly to Alberta voters. I really mean this. No one else is top priority here because we're all either just spectators or commentators or whatever. It's folks that vote or can register to vote. That I'm letting them know their voice will be heard this time. They can be assured their voice will be heard, their vote will be counted, because we don't even believe elections these days, Mike, especially down in the States. I know you got them up there too.
Yeah.
Issues with election integrity and everything else. So this is, I won't speak for him. I wish I'd met him in the past, Ronald Reagan, but I think he'd really like this, Mike, talking directly to the Alberta voter. You can vote yes, you can vote no, or you can remain undecided until referendum day. We want to hear from no's. We want to hear from undecided folks, Mike, because those are the people that I think 5 minutes of education will change a lot of their minds.
Yeah, 100%.
As of this moment, according to recent polls, I mean, this came out of the Alberta government, 33% of Albertans are disenfranchised, Mike, a third of them.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to jump from 30s to the 50s or even low 60s, which I think it's going to be.
It's time to do something
I think just
different.
Education. There you go.
Yeah, educate. Well, and that's the other thing. Canada has done its best to make Canadians hate the United States of America. It's in the official documentation that you're only as Canadian as you are anti-American. Well, let me tell you something. My dad is from Chicago and served in the U.S. military. I've got family in the U.S. Air Force right now. My mother's family came up from Iowa. A large portion of people in Alberta already have American roots. And I'll tell you what else. When they locked down that border, the federal government of Canada between Alberta and the United States and said nobody could cross it. I want every one of you to tell me how that's any different than North and South Korea being separated and families being cut off from each other. You tell me how it's any different. Now, we need the option to tell the federal government of Canada, no, you're not going to do that. In fact, it's none of your business if we want to drive down to Florida to see Cousin Jake, or to, I'll tell you what else we should be able to do, and that's pack a sidearm to the mall.
Well, there you go. That's called the Second Amendment, Mike.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. The two distinguishing things that no other country can have in the world, and it's under the U.S. Constitution. It is the most unique document in the history of the world, is the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. First Amendment, freedom of speech, and a free press, Mike, a free press. And secondly, Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms for not only self-protection, but protection from a tyrannical government like there used to be a couple hundred years ago. And as we saw during the convoy episode where we saw bank accounts frozen, come on, the border closed. This is repression, okay? This is oppression. So, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. There is I think there's a real desire for freedom if people could find a way to do it. And I really, really believe
we have a comment.
This is the way.
We have a comment from Benjamin Abel. He's keying in. Are you going to let us post this in your group, Ben? He says, tell Greg, please, that equalization is approaching $700 billion and represents the single largest transfer of wealth in the history of the Western Hemisphere. Wow. Think about that, everybody. $700 billion has been stolen from the people of Alberta, your children, your grandchildren, and given to people in other places. It does not reflect your best interests whatsoever.
Wow.
And
well,
praise the Lord. Old Saucy's in Alberta, and Old Saucy in Alberta in the Rumble chat is down with this as well. Good to have you on board. Sorry to interrupt you, Greg, but I had a few things.
No.
That's what we hosts do. We're big, fat-headed loudmouths, and we interrupt people. So back to what you were saying.
Big Mikey. I thank Benjamin. Ben Ebels is a great guy.
He is a great guy. Yeah.
He's kind of the official historian. I don't know any human being that knows more about Canadian history and Alberta 51 and U.S. history, how it applies. And I thank him for that stat. And Ben has been a key player since 2018.
He's a tremendous asset to this conversation. Yep. Tremendous.
Yep.
Thank you, Ben.
So I thank him for that. I thank him for that info.
I don't know anybody that's besides yourself or Gordon Kessler that's done more to move this ball forward. And I think Ben's from Massachusetts, and even he sees the benefits of this for the United States of America. And I see that he's busily typing right now. Oh, he says it's up in the group. I was just messing with you, Ben. We should have reached out to you beforehand, but surprise, we're doing this today.
The historian is in the house. I think the world of Ben. He's an amazing guy, and he'll be typing us some information here, probably correcting both of us, Mike.
Most likely,
but in a good way. In a good way, you know.
$200 billion to Quebec alone. $700 billion.
Oh my.
Overall, $200 billion to Quebec alone. Hey, Quebec, go get a job, you bums. Get your own money. And I'll tell you what else. That doesn't go to the citizens of Quebec. It doesn't. And we've had people. My brother was telling me he lived on White Ave for a while there, just off White Ave in the city of Edmonton, which is on my chroma key screen behind me. He said that he knew people that came from Quebec to Edmonton, and they would trash talk Edmonton like, "You guys here, you do not know how to live. Your city is a dump.
Yeah.
You don't do anything right. You are not like Quebec, right?" And it's like, yeah, we're paying for that standard of life that you have there, so you better shut your mouth, Frenchie.
Don't get me started. I got so many Quebec stories, Mike. Just honestly, the disrespect, and I don't want to broad brush stroke stuff, but I mean, right down to customs agents, to people in the restaurants, to customer service. I'm just telling you, Quebec has a little bit of a reputation. in that way.
Quebecutation.
Just call it arrogant. Okay, I'm not going to broad brush, but they do have a reputation, and I've seen them. I've had dozens of situations where, they just do. They either sound arrogant or think they know it all, and we know that Quebec is wealthy unto itself. Hydroelectric alone, and I'm not a wonk, but hydroelectric alone and in the mineral resources and stuff, if Quebec can't stand on its own 2 feet, I don't understand it. But again, now you're getting back to my 1970s Quebec kind of conversation. But yes, indeed. This, Mike, is a conversation for Albertans and Alberta voters. Anyone from Quebec, if they don't vote in Alberta elections or referendums, they're not invited to this conversation. It's just opinion on their part.
Fair enough.
So I really do believe there's a lot of truth to this. And I'm telling you what, I'll just go out and say it. I say East Coast. There is an East Coast bias. God love them. I mean, a lot of my friends are on the East Coast still. There's an East Coast bias. They literally laugh, Mike, and scoff at the concept of Alberta becoming the 51st state. That'll never happen. That can't happen. They need us too much.
I had a Rebel News reporter do that to me. David Menzies with Rebel News laughed at me and said, "Oh, that'll never happen." It's like, go back to Ontario and wear your blonde wig there on Tucker Carlson. By the way, Ben is from Arizona. I can't think of a greater insult to an Arizonan than to say he's from Massachusetts. I apologize for that, buddy. But listen, we've got 15 minutes.
I know a lot of.
We've got.
I know a lot of Boston guys.
Yeah,
I know a lot of Boston guys, and I know what he's saying there. I know a lot of Boston guys, and he's right there.
We've got 15 minutes before we go to the network break for Mojo 50. And so let's talk a few of the key policies that we would like to see switched over and how that could happen with the United States of America. Then during the break, we're going to get a hold of Val Olson, and we're going to get a hold of Gordon Kessler, who is an old workhorse in this area. And this guy knows the workings. He was the only official Alberta separatist in the Alberta government. Like, Gordon is somebody that's fought this fight for a long time. And so big thanks to Ben for chiming in here. And anything you want to post in that little chat there to add to the conversation, Ben, I'll keep an eye on it. What it is for me, it's wealth. It's a higher degree of personal freedom. People bring the healthcare thing into it all the time, but that's a load of BS. You've been lied to about your healthcare by Canada. Like, how it works. Look, here's the thing with healthcare, okay? Under healthcare in Canada, we send money to Ottawa, and they give us back a percentage of it to run our healthcare. Now, if we had our own state constitution and we're able to run healthcare our own way without Canada taking money and giving it back to us, Alberta could have the greatest healthcare system on the planet. So you've got wealth, you've got better healthcare. There's the issue of the Second Amendment, right? There's also the issue of cutting ties with that old mentality of Canada and its tendencies to align with the World Economic Forum and the Klaus Schwabs and Bill Gates of the world. That's another big one right there. And so those are the big ones right off the bat. Like, when you talk to people about this, I have in the past, I've spoken to neighbors and things, and that's usually their biggest concern. What about our free health care? Well, you never did have free health care. You got taxed out the yin-yang and then told it was free. There was nothing free about it. Not only that, but it's about to collapse due to mismanagement. And if we were to cut Canada out of the deal, then it would go a long way to doing that. Like I said, I've thought about this a very, 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 very long time. Now, I also got made into a pastor and a preacher in the past 3 years, and so I've kind of shied away from it a little bit. That's why you haven't seen me in the group very much, Ben. But don't worry, I'm still very much on your side. He thought that was pretty funny that I apologize for calling him a mass hole. Old Saucy says, Quebec, ya bums, no kidding. He says they hate us so much they won't even buy our oil, but they'll take our money. Yeah, that's the other thing. Blocking resources from getting to coastal waters on the BC side, on the west, and blocking our resources in the east in Quebec and cutting off our source of income, but it's still expecting the payment, like the pimp putting out a cigarette butt on the prostitute. Is that what you want, Alberta? Is that what you know what I mean? And now here's the other thing. People get up, I hear all the time, yeah, maybe if Trump was president, it would be a good time to join the U.S., but not with Joe Biden in office. And Ben made a point, actually, that really stuck with me. That is, presidents get changed like light bulbs, okay? Biden is not going to be president forever. In fact, he might not even be alive for another 10 minutes. And Alberta would have more say in the affairs of the nation under the Electoral College and actually having a seat in the Senate. It's 85% of our GDP anyway. People say, yeah, but if we join the U.S., they've got a fiat currency and it's about to collapse. Yeah, well, if that happens, you're going to be screwed if you're holding Canadian dollars anyway. Think, would ya? Greg.
Oh, you know, on and on. It could fill 2 legal pads with advantages for Alberta to be an American, the first state of the United States. You know, you'd have 2 senators in Washington, 2 senators in Washington, just like all the other states.
Right.
What I'd say directly to Alberta citizens, I totally get it. I totally get it. If you feel you're not in control or your vote doesn't count, but I'm just going to say right now, do not worry, and I mean do not worry about your health care. It'll be better than ever. Better than ever. There's so much money up in Alberta. Don't worry about your health care. Don't worry about your pensions. Don't worry about immigration, going through the nonsense 10, 15 years of immigration. You know, don't worry about working for an American company. You got 10 times the population down here. You can work for any American company with barely any paperwork. Don't worry about your military. You have that from day one. Don't worry about law enforcement. You have that from day one. Everything in the U.S. in U.S. dollars, including your pensions and otherwise. U.S. dollars, Mike. So there, I've compared the East Coast to the West Coast to an abusive spouse. The East Coast, Ottawa, being an abusive spouse towards Alberta. Yep. And the minute that Alberta realizes, remember this, that they've just been dating the wrong girlfriend all these years. Remember that story?
Yeah, I do.
So there you go. There's my 2 cents, even if it's 2 cents Canadian, Mike.
2 cents Canadian. We have about 8 minutes before the network break, and we're going to go bring in Val Olson, and then we're leaving the best for last, Gordon Kessler. This, you know, I like this conversation. I do. It's not something that I'm going to talk about every single day of the week just because I do other things on this show, but it captivates the imagination when you think about all the beautiful things that could come out of it. And you know, when you talked about Canada canceling Canada Day, you know what? I'm good with that. Good job, guys. Yeah, I don't mind you canceling Canada Day anyway. You take that red and white maple leaf Confederate flag and go in and wash your car with it. As far as I'm concerned, use it as a chamois, because that's another point that's been brought up. When you fly that red maple leaf, which, by the way, there are no maple leafs in Alberta. I think they stop at about the Manitoba border. And what you're doing is celebrate. It's like it's like Jews celebrating the day Hitler came to power or something. It's weird. And I'll tell you what else. We do not celebrate Canada Day in this house. I fly the Stars and Stripes, Old Glory in our backyard. Always have, always will. And we celebrate Independence Day in this house. And I'll tell you what else. I set off fireworks in my backyard. My neighbors don't know what to think.
Good for you.
That's what I do.
Good for you.
The town I live in Edmonton, I see fireworks going up on Independence Day all around us in suburban Edmonton. Seriously, and when I go around this city that I live in on the edge of Edmonton, I see U.S. flags hanging on garage doors. That's my personal experience here.
And I don't care what anyone says. I think the Canadians have a real admiration for the U.S. I'd like to sit around a campfire and talk about this. I've actually said any of the bad-mouthing Canadians who badmouth the U.S., I think that's a form of, I've called it political immaturity or repressed personal jealousy. I really do. I believe that.
Yeah, it's like short man or little brother syndrome.
Sure, sure. But that said, people, we've talked about this so many times, Mike, people that love Canada, I love Canada. I mean, people that love, stay as Canadian as you want up in Alberta. Call yourself a Canadian American.
Yeah.
Fly the U.S. flag, fly the Canadian flag, fly an international flag, do what you want. But you're free to do it, Mike. You're free to do it.
Yep.
And that's the key right there. So
I don't hate everybody in Canada. When I say Canadians, I'm referring to more of a mindset than anything. If you live in Manitoba or if you live in Quebec and you want to be free and prosperous, I back you on that. But at the end of the day, I'm an Albertan and I'm a U.S. citizen.
Yep.
And that's where my heart lies as far as my nationality and my people. And so that's where I'm at.
What greater gift, Mike, can you give to your kids? If now we've said this, if not for you, but your kids, becoming a dual citizen, a Canadian-American dual citizen, which as soon as Alberta drafts its own state constitution, it's done. What a great gift for your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids to be born as dual citizens, Mike.
Yeah.
Access to this market. You mentioned something earlier. It really struck a chord to me. You mentioned about the lack of representation of Alberta back east, of course, in Ottawa, the seat distribution. That's a joke. And I'm just saying, no matter how nice or wonderful people and politicians might be out west, I don't think you got a chance with the number of seats. The lack of representation. I had said the big thing that surprised me this last Canadian election was Andrew Scheer winning the popular vote and losing the election kind of badly. Remember the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump election where everybody, all my Canadian friends were saying, no, Hillary won the election because of the popular vote, right? Popular vote. Right. Scheer wins the popular vote and he loses the election, Mike.
Yep.
So it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Pray for it, bless everybody, but I think Alberta citizens have a real shot to get this done by registering their vote. And as I said, the deal's going to come from the offers and the invitation is going to come from the U.S. side, Mike. We've talked about this.
Yep.
The U.S. Senate is going to invite Alberta back into the fold. Just watch. But it's up to Albertans now to get it done, know their voice will be heard, vote, whether it's online or in person. It'll be June 30th. Again, official voting website and stuff will be up on I'd say by about February 14th. That's an easy date to remember, February 14th. But their voice can be heard, Mike. And all this stuff we've been talking about is not going to be for naught. It's not going to be for naught. And the East Coast will not know. I mean, they'll not know what's happening, and it's just going to happen before their eyes. You just watch.
Not for naught. Can I quote you on that?
Heck, quote me on anything you want, man. Quote me on anything you want.
We've got just a couple minutes left before we go to the network break for the radio station here, and so what I've done is we had a little glitch, so my network break video kicked in a little bit early, but we're going to be playing a song called American Prayer because it fits with the theme of the show today. And look, America does have problems. She's in bad shape. I get it. Yep. But if you live in the United States of America, if you understood the dynamic in Canada, which most of you don't, you would I think that you would agree wholeheartedly that Alberta needs to do something different. And not only that, but Alberta's almost like a lost tribe, a prodigal son that needs to come home to Mother Freedom, because like we've talked about before, a lot of the people here came up from the cattle drives. And you need to be back in the fold. You need to be part of the family again. And I hear it all the time. Old Saucy over in the chat on on Rumble thinks it's a great idea. Madeline thinks it's a great idea. We have 1 minute real quick. If you go to Americanuckradio.com, we've posted the document that Greg has come up with for this. What's the date of the referendum? Really quick, the official date, Greg?
June 30th, one day before July 1st, Alberta Independence Day, Mike. June 30th, 2023.
All right,
again, we'll be announcing more as things roll out, but in February there'll be an official website where people can participate directly.
Yeah. No, that works. Okay, good stuff. If you're listening to Mojo 50, you've got station identification and town hall news coming up. If you're on Rumble, we're going to throw on a video for you. So grab yourself a coffee, pull up a bean bag, and let's talk freedom on Americanuck Radio. We'll be back with Val Olsen, and then a real treat to talk to Gordon Kessler after that in the second segment of the second hour.
Rewind, wear masks, run in style. You can see someone smile and hang out for a while. Can we just go back to simpler times? We've lost God, lost our way. We complain instead of pray. Need to turn back today. No black and white, just gray. No faith, just come what may. We've lost our way. Ooh, we've lost our way. It can start with me, so a nation can see what happens if we choose to believe. Turn it all around if we fall to the ground. Do you care to take my dare and start our American prayer? What's headed our way if we choose to stay? Where prayer's not in school, our foundation's ridicule, and Christians are viewed as fools. What's headed our way? Oh, what's headed our way? It can start with me, so a nation can see what happens if we choose to believe. Turn it all around if we fall to the ground. Do you care to take my dare and start our American prayer? Dare to follow our founding fathers. Dare to live the dream. Oh, it's not
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio on Mojo 50 WBN 324. I forgot how to talk in that break. We got Val Olson joining us, and before we bring her in here, just got another post from our good friend Benjamin Ebel over at the 51st State Group on Facebook. And look, here's the situation, America, if you're watching this in the United States, lower 48. Alberta has 34 seats in the House of Commons, okay? So those seats, that's a vote, right, as to how the affairs of the nations are conducted. Okay, Alberta has 34, all right? Quebec has 78, and Ontario has 121. Now, that's 200 to 34 votes as to who leads your nation, as to who is the rudder at the helm of the nation. That would be like if Ohio had well, I mean, just think about it. You know, you have no say in what goes on with your federal government with Alberta as part of Canada. Okay, and that's a very good representation of it. And it's made to be tilted. It's supposed to be that way. Now, we've brought in Val Olson. Val is a good friend of mine, and she's a beautiful person that I've gotten to really like the more I get to know her. Val is from Lethbridge in southern Alberta. Is that correct, Val? Lethbridge?
Medicine Hat, actually.
Medicine Hat?
Neighbors.
Sorry?
I lost you there.
You lost me?
Can you hear me, Mike?
You said, can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly. Yes, I'm from Medicine Hat.
I am from Medicine Hat. I went to I went to Herald School, and I went to Alexandria, and I also went to Ross Glen Elementary.
No way. What a small world. I know those schools very well. I spent many years on the radio station in Medicine Hat, and I loved going into the classrooms. I think I was in over 30-plus classrooms, reading to the little kiddos and feeding them a healthy snack. And I love community. So that is great to know that you are part of Medicine Hat, too.
You also have some media background. Tell everybody about your media background that you bring to the table, Val.
Well, I spent the majority of my career in southern Alberta, co-hosting a morning show, and I had a TV show for a while. It was called Slice of Life, and pretty much like a piece of the pie where just, talked about what was going around, what was making the news, and just meeting everyday folks and talking about life. And the show really was just a reflection of me as a mom and wife and a hatter. And from there, I moved into social media, as pretty much everyone has. And my online community really became like an extension of my family. And so when I'm not being censored, it's a chance just to, extend that table and welcome more people to the fold and just talk about everyday life. And I'm a solutions-based person, so when I hear a problem, I immediately want to come in and try and help in any way, shape, or form. So I think in a nutshell, that's kind of what brings me to this movement. It's something that's been on my heart since I was a little girl. I remember visiting the United States and going to Mount Rushmore and feeling like, wow, this feels like home here. And I couldn't understand fully until I was an adult just, what that actually meant, the safety, the security, the freedom to say what you think and be able to, speak the truth, have an opinion, make a choice, and have and enjoy that right. That's just part of the amenities of the upgraded life in the USA compared to what we're seeing in Canada, right across the country. I mean, it's ridiculous what's happening. And brave people who I knew were, brave and not afraid to share their opinions, they're just caving. They are scared. They are scared of what's going to happen to them
Yep.
if they say what they think. It's just a sad state of affairs, Mike.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear out there. There really is. But hey, man, this is an idea that's time has come. And I'll tell you what, it's always darkest before the dawn, to quote the old cliche. But you want to have something that you can work for to actually make things better for your future and your family, and uplift the United States of America, a brand new, super wealthy red state that is not going to vote for transvestites to become admirals and heads of the health department. You want Alberta, America. Now, Val, I'm guessing that this is something that you've been thinking about since you were very young, like me. You probably heard me talking about how I was going to State of Buffalo meetings when I was in high school exploring this. Is this something that was talked about at your breakfast table growing up in Medicine Hat?
Well, I grew up in Saskatchewan, and I would say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. My own grandfather, back in the day on his farmland, he actually flew the American flag on his property. And he was contacted by an intelligence agency of some sort. And it was reported to them, based on some of the magazines, like he really enjoys his hunting and things like this, but he's always been a proud NRA member.
Yep.
And those magazines, plus flying the American flag on his own property, alerted the Canadian Intelligence Agency. And so, he was spoken to about, is he not loyal to Canada, etc. So those were discussions that I had and was brought into at a young age. So it's definitely been something on my radar, but it's very serious when you think about that you have your own property, your own land, and like this land's been in our family for going on 100+ years, okay? And you are told what you can and you can't fly for a flag? Really?
Unreal.
That's life. Yeah, life in Canada. And now fast forward, here we are, 30 years later, and we're just seeing how serious it actually is.
Yep, and Canada's coming to its logical conclusion. Just the way it's run and the way that it's set up, it is going to collapse on its own. So I think that it would be best to be as far away from the mushroom cloud as possible. Brother Bo in the live chat on Rumble says we should trade California and Portland for Alberta in a straight trade. Brother Bo, I've heard that sentiment many times. And in fact, I've got some friends that you may have heard of that they created a fictional country called Diagolon, which basically creates a swath of land from Alberta to Texas and creates a separate country, getting the more liberal east and west coast out of the equation. And they were relentlessly hounded by Canadian intelligence services, by RCMP. They were set up. I was talking to Jeremy McKenzie, who a lot of people know he's been cut off from his banking now in Canada. He's such a dangerous man, being a veteran of the Canadian military in the Afghanistan campaign. And he was saying that we never ever got as much backlash ever with anything that we talked about until we started talking about Diagolon and Alberta and Saskatchewan leaving Canada, and they freaked out like they went crazy. And so, there's this big push in the world, Val. I'm a preacher, okay? I'm a Bible reading, I'm a tongue talking, one God, apostolic Acts 2:38 preacher of God's word. And there is a tendency in this world that we've got to unite everything. We need a one world government. We need a one world religion. Well, I'll tell you what, Jesus said, you think I came to bring peace? I tell you, nay, I came to bring division. Division. We need division. We need people to divide along their ideological and political lines, come out from among them and be separate. Amen. We don't want to join everything together in some universal government religion like the Tower of Babel and Nimrod. We want to separate ourselves from people that we don't want to live like and agree with. Val.
I like that. People want choice. I think that's what it boils down to. I mean, I talk to people on all sides, but the underlying message that I hear is it's my choice. It's my right. And it's not until they start, walking it out that they realize, wow, I don't actually have choice. So what draws me to this referendum is the fact that it's up to you, because this is a question about your life. And the adults I talk to, I say, where are you at in life? Do you want your life today for your children that you're raising? And every single time they say, no, life is hard. I can barely afford to put food on the table. Lucky if I can go to the dollar store and just buy crap garbage food. No chance of Alberta beef on my table. It's wieners if we're lucky. It's sad. It's really sad what's going on right now. Yep. And people are now open to this idea of deciding for themselves. So the referendum question is very easy. Do you want to leave Canada and join the USA? Yes or no? Just a yes or no. And it's your vote. It's your right. I don't think for a millisecond are we going to have any politician who's actually going to stand up and say, I'm better equipped to make a decision about your life than you. But, hey, if we hear that, I am all about sitting down at a table and talking it out. Let's just chat about that. Who is best equipped to make a personal decision about someone's life? I mean, at the end of the day, not to get technical, but this is a human right. It is a human right to make a decision for yourself. And that's just the beauty of this. We're not the first people group. Alberta citizens are not the first people group on planet Earth to make a decision like they want to move and have an upgraded life.
Yeah.
Because I'm someone who's walking it out. Born and raised, grew up in Saskatchewan, called Alberta home. And here I am now, 3-4 years in. And wow, let me tell you, it is the upgraded life. It is amazing. People are happier here. Neighbors sit and talk. There's like-minded people everywhere you go. And everybody wants to hear your opinion. And here in Arizona and California, because I'm actually in California today, I talk to people wherever I go. And they want to know what your opinion is, even if they don't agree. People talk here, whereas I find back home, it's almost like if they don't like, what you're saying, plug your ears. I don't want to hear about it. You're bad, don't have an opinion, or they're scared. There is so much fear, and we have to stop with the fear. We have to come out from under that. It's dangerous when people are just walking with that much stress and they can't sleep, they're not eating healthy, they don't know how they're going to, pay for their bills. It's awful. We need to do something. And in my opinion, this is it. The USA is open. And when I was approached on, the position of being an honorary chair of the Arizona 48, Alberta 51 Welcome Home Committee, I sat back and I thought, is this something I can do? A Welcome Home Committee. Like, what does that even look like? And I got a great big smile on my face, and I said, I am tickled, red, white, and blue. I can see this. I believe in it, and I will be at that Welcome Home tent, and you can sign me up. There's nowhere else on planet Earth I'd rather be on referendum day.
You brought up a point that I actually forgot about, and a couple things I want to say. Going back to the division thing, this isn't just an Alberta, USA, and Alberta separation thing. I see this spirit of division all over the place. You've got the state of Jefferson movement in California. You've got the state of Illinois, large mass of it wanting to separate itself from Chicago. You have a large swath of Oregon wanting to become a part of Idaho. I think that this drives a stake into the heart of that whole World Economic Forum, one world government dream that was brewed up in Satan's toilet bowl way back at the Tower of Babel. And the other thing, too, that you bring up is the friendliness that you encounter in the South. Southern hospitality is a real thing. And what Canada has, and it's been a very successful marketing campaign, is to convince Canadians that by virtue of the fact that they were born on Canadian soil, no matter what they do or say, they're somehow nicer than everybody in the world. Do you know what I'm talking about, Val?
Yeah, I do. You are onto something. And it's like this entitled, well, I'm the nice one.
Yeah.
I'm the nice one because I'm Canadian. And it is so true. And I've spoke to Americans here who actually have addressed this. And, you know, it's each person for themselves. And you want to be a constant representative of, you know, how you want to be treated. Treat others how you want to be treated. But the indoctrination that's been going on, the anti-American sentiment, is real. In fact, when I crossed the border, I took with me the textbooks. I was very active in igniting one of the largest pushbacks when it came to parental rights in Alberta. Over 3,000 of us were just asking for a meeting with our local school board to address, you know, the indoctrination that was beginning to happen. And this was back in 2015 when it was just starting to rear its ugly head. And so I went around the community and I said, look, like, this is important. We've got a band together. So over 30 different faith communities. And I mean, from every which side, people supported this, A to Z. Like, it was just rock solid of people who were opposed to this. And we took it to the Court of Queen's bench, and we were handed our parents' rights right out the door, just a slap in the face. And that was back in 2015. And so I gathered the textbooks, I gathered the material, I went on the government website, I got all the material to start educating parents. And also on the U.S. side, parents here, they want to know, they want to see it with their own eyes, because there is an anti-American sentiment that is being pumped. And you don't have to look very far to find it in Alberta or Saskatchewan. And from a boots on the ground eyewitness report, I stand by that statement.
100%. I've noticed it myself too. Yeah. And it's amazing to me how easy it was to brainwash everybody into thinking that you're nicer than the rest of the world because you were born on a certain patch of dirt. I mean, it's insane. And we had on Americanuckradio.com, I had to call our web hosting service, and I was speaking with a guy in Palm Springs, and a lot of Canadians go down there and go to Arizona and Florida they call them snowbirds. And I just asked him, I said, you know, what was your view of Canadians working in the hospitality industry? Because he told me that he had worked in that industry in Palm Springs. He said, I found that they were condescending. I found that they were very foul-mouthed, and I found that they were very fond of talking about how much nicer they are than everybody else, and then stabbing each other in the back and looking down on me. And I was a waiter, and so they would talk openly about it while I was in the room like I wasn't even there because I was just the hired help. But he said it came up more often than you would think. And so like that was just somebody, I didn't coach him in the answer. I didn't, but that's definite. And it's not everybody, okay? But it's definitely there's the different regions and people with different education systems and government, radio, and television have a way about them. And that's something that people in the South have noticed about a lot of people from Canada.
Yeah, it's true, Mike. I was at a women's group meeting, and one of the moms there used to work at Disney World. And she said, I have to tell you, Val, and she's such a sweet woman. She said, I had such a bad taste in my mouth about Canadians based on how I was treated as wait staff. And she said, you're not like that. And I just wanted to tell you, you're one of the nicest Canadians I've ever met. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, wow, because it's just echoing what you're saying, same thing.
Yeah.
And so, if there are Albertans or Canadians or Americans watching this, look, we need to address this. We need to clean this up because it is an issue, and this is something at an individual level, at a home zone level, we can fix immediately because it's brought to our attention. And not everyone is like this. I'm not grouping everyone, but be aware. And when we're talking about assimilating, coming to the United States, let's bring our best, right? Let's work through all of the stuff we can fix on a home level. Let's be tip-top because we're talking about making this happen very fast. And we are going to be trailblazing something in history. And we want to have strong families. We want to have strong marriages. And we want to come to the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we want to do our part. We are resource rich, but not just resources, as people. You cannot replace people. And we want to show who we are, what we stand for, and we want to join and become the 51st state of the United States of America.
Well said, Val Olsen on Americanuck Radio. By the way, I have to address a comment here. Brother Bo says the only answer to change the culture is worldwide revival in the name of Jesus. Brother Bo,
yes,
you're sprechen Sie in my language here, and I totally agree 100%. And I've said on this show many times, you want things to get better, don't wait for some politician to drain the swamp in Washington or Ottawa. Drain your own swamp. What's going on in your house? What's going on in your family? What's the man in the mirror doing? You deal with him first. Amen? Come to repentance. Acts 2:38. You want to hear some preaching? Brother Bo, that's what we do on this show just about every day. And yeah, I'm big on that. You betcha. I started preaching a few years ago, and God started a little church here during the lockdowns, and we have borne much fruit through this work. There are people all over the United States and Canada that have come to repentance and been baptized in the name of Jesus and filled with the Holy Ghost because of what he has given me to do on this show. And I'll tell you what else, that's why I'm alive, and I can't think of a better time that God, who knew me before I was formed in my mother's womb, would put me in this time to be here. And praise God, it's beautiful when you know your purpose. Val, we've got to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to grab Gordon Kessler. And what would you, if you had one last thing to say, and then your tongue would cleave to the roof of your mouth, and you were at an AB 51 meeting or speaking to people that you wanted to put this idea forward, what would be that very last thing that you had to say before we went to a commercial break and you had to forever hold your peace?
Okay. I'm going to say the real message of freedom is Jesus, and let freedom ring.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Praise God. Val, you've been a terrific guest. And Greg, you have sat there and been quiet this whole time. I've never heard you do that before. How did you control yourself so long?
I'll invoice you for the quiet time later, Mikey. Don't worry. You're going to have to pay me in U.S. funds, man. My quick thank you to Val Olson, your guest. This is a real special interview, Mike.
Yeah.
I want to thank her personally. She and I have worked personally behind the scenes on a lot of this stuff. If there was a Guinness Book of World Records for the person who's most researched and documented on AB 51, it's Val Olson of ValOlsonNews.com. Seriously, this is I've enjoyed sitting here, and I really thank Val for literally every day we're interacting on stuff like this behind the scenes. Just God love her, and thank you, Val, for just a great appearance today. I loved listening to this.
She did great. Well, Greg, make yourself comfortable because we're going to bring in Gordon Kessler, and so I hope you've got your CPAP machine on and ready to...
No, I'm just going to listen. You got Gordy Kessler coming on, man. I am going to listen, and I am just going to enjoy this. This is the smartest guy. This is the pioneer. You know who he is, Mike. I'm going to sit back and enjoy this. Gordon's going to be great.
It's Make America and Alberta Great Again Day on Americanuck Radio. On Monday, we'll be doing Jesus is My General with Pastor Nathaniel Rios from Wellsprings Church in Oxford, Mississippi. We'll probably have Tyler and Rob joining us as well. And we'll get back into the Word of God next week. If any of you want to hear some of the things that I teach in our church here and on the show, you can subscribe to the channel and go back this week and probably, about a year since I've been doing hardcore Bible study in here because I used to do news. I used to be very angry. I used to walk around the house and pace back and forth swearing about how much I hated Justin Trudeau, but that wasn't doing a thing for me. And now I've got peace and joy, and I like it. And so we do a lot of Bible study. Madeline says, preaching by Scripture, not self-opinion. Amen. And God has been really opening up His Word on this show. We'll be back after this commercial break for the sponsors of our radio station in Dallas, Texas, Mojo 50 and WBN 324 with Gordon Kessler. Thank you for watching or listening to Americanuck Radio. Segment 2 of Hour 2 coming right up.
Wake up refreshed, like you slept on a cloud. Get yourself the very best in bedding supplies today. You deserve it. Go to MyPillow.com and don't forget our very special promo code, Mojo50, for incredible savings.
At Meakin Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Meakin Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logo designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Meakin Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at RoMikaDesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@RoMikaDesigns.com, or visit us on the web at RoMikaDesigns.com.
5 major food distributors have suffered explosions at food processing and storage facilities in the last few months. 20 more facilities have been destroyed by fires over the last 4 months. War in Ukraine drags on and holds the looming threat of nuclear escalation. U.S. inflation is officially reported above 8%. Mobs of people are whipped into frenzy by an increasingly unstable class of political elites. We live in interesting times. Political, economic, and financial collapse are all very real threats to our way of life. If the worst happens, make sure you and your loved ones are prepared with emergency food and supplies from preparewithmojo50.com. That's preparewithmojo50.com. Coffee lovers everywhere now have the opportunity to do their part to save the planet with Al Gore's lab-grown coffee substitute. We, here at Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change, believe this is a terrible idea. While man-bun-wearing, soy latte-loving poodle walkers everywhere are in love with the eco-friendly lab-grown sadness water, Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change want to see the sea levels rise. And for New York City to join the lost city of Atlantis, 12,000 leagues beneath the sea.
American Pride Roasters, historically great coffee. Every pot brewed is an eco-disaster 100 times greater than the Fukushima extinction level event. So order yours today and do your part to hasten the end of the planet. You don't want to live forever, do you? AmericanPrideRoasters.com. That's AmericanPrideRoasters.com.
How dare you?
We dare. We dare.
Flat Earth, the moon landing, JFK, 5G, Biden won the election. Hey, lovelies, does anyone have any new conspiracy theories? Because all the ones I know have come true. Join me, Ria Bow, here on Sunday Long Live Radio, live every Sunday of the year, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard, 10 a.m. UK, and 9 p.m. New South Wales. I'll see you Sunday.
Americanuck Radio.
I would say the world's most underrated radio shows. Americanuck Radio. This guy, Mike Filip, is brilliant. I listen to him every day. Love your show. I really do. I'm a huge fan. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Americanuck Radio. Americanuck Radio.
Welcome back to the second segment of Hour 2 of Americanuck Radio. It's Alberta 51 Day, and I've got to address a couple of things here before I go any further. We've got Gordon Kessler, and I don't want to eat up his time, but I just saw something in the Rumble chat that I'm extremely excited about. Brother Bo says, I'm getting baptized in the name of Jesus this weekend. It turns out I was going to a church infiltrated by sun worship my whole life. I've been listening closely for a long time. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you, Jesus. Praise God. I was just praying this morning that he would be with the ones that listen to the show every day and touch their hearts that I don't know of. And Brother Bo, if you want to come and join the Americanuck Radio chat room, it's on MeWe, it's uncensored, and there's a good bunch of people, and I would love to speak with you. Go hit the contact button at AmericanuckRadio.com. Reach out to me. I want to talk to you, Bo. Over on the Facebook page, Ben Ebel says, as an American, I overlook the Canadian bigotry against Americans because I know that they were not born that way. They were poisoned by their government, and this proves that Britain never was a mother country. As Paine said, no beast devours its young as Britain devoured the colonies, and no good government would poison its citizens against their neighbors. Very powerful what you said there, Benjamin Ebel. And Brother Bo, so glad to see that this show has touched your life in that way. That's my Stanley Cup right there. Mr. Gordon Kessler, we've had him on the show before to talk about this issue. We've got him back again today. Very exciting, Mr. Kessler, that our mutual friend Greg has gone to the lengths of putting together a referendum for the citizens of Alberta in a grassroots, non-tainted government or media way to have us be able to speak our voice on this issue. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Kessler.
Thanks, Mike. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah. So where would you like to start with this whole conversation?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is it looks like our friend Greg has become a full-fledged American because this referendum idea is all American.
Yeah.
In Canada, a referendum isn't part of the political process. And so this is really unique. And it was designed so that the grassroots, without having to have politicians draft up legislation, the grassroots can actually go out and make a difference and have input in the political conversation of the day. And so I'm really happy to see that we can't expect Danielle to bring forth a referendum. It looks to me like she's already decided she's going to cave to Eastern Canada.
Yeah.
She's going to use ideas to placate the masses, like she's going to change the health care and she's going to ban the WEF and those kinds of things.
Yeah, we've seen this before, hey?
Oh, this is a replay of a replay of a replay.
Yeah.
Conservatives are easily, distracted. They're easily bought off, and so you do two or three things, and they forget about the most important things. And in this case, the most important thing is crafting a future for Albertans without interference from Ottawa. And the best way to do that is to separate and become the 51st state. And I'm really hoping that happens.
Yeah, 100%. I got a question here I think that you could address probably just as well, if not better than anybody here. And this is from Gloria in Leduc, Alberta. She says, I still want to know what happens to Crown land in Alberta if we separate Banff, North Country, etc. I've never heard anyone address this. If they have, I didn't hear it. Crown land. Well, I'll tell you, there's no crown in the United States of America. But Gordon, what would your answer be to this dear lady Gloria in Leduc, Alberta?
Well, the Crown land is basically, deals with mineral rights, oil and gas, mining, all of those kinds of things. So the Crown land is no good to the rest of Canada because it belongs to Alberta anyway. The resources of the Crown land belong to Albertans.
Right.
And that was given to the province in the initial legislation that was passed, the British North America Act. Provinces were given the resources. So if the Crown lands without the resources don't mean anything, whether it's lumber, oil and gas, mining, all of those things are part of the Crown land. So really, I'd like to tell you a story so that people understand the connection between Alberta and the United States. Alberta has always been kind of the crown jewel of the United States right from the beginning. They just don't know it. The first oil and gas discovery was in Drayton Valley, not in Drayton Valley, in Black Diamond area of Alberta, Turner Valley. And when the oil then, who discovered that oil and gas reserve, went to Ottawa to get funding so they could develop the natural resources of Alberta, they were flatly turned down. And so they went to Bay Street and tried to get the investors on Bay Street to invest in the oil and gas industry in Alberta. They were turned down. At that point, they went to the United States. And they asked the United States to get involved in the oil and gas industry to develop the resources because there was no backing from the Canadian government or the Canadian investor. And so even as early as 1914, if it hadn't been for American investment, the province of Alberta would never have grown the way it's grown. And so maybe it's time that we just become part of the United States, since they were the initial investors in making Alberta great in 1914. And I say that with all sincerity. The biggest argument that we have is, well, we're not always going to have Justin Trudeau. And they're right. We're not always going to have Justin Trudeau, just like we're not always going to have Joe Biden. So everybody holds their hopes on a conservative prime minister. Well, we've been through that. That was always the argument when I was in politics, that We just need to get a conservative from Alberta or from the West who will represent our concerns, and we'll send him to Ottawa and we'll make all of the changes necessary. Well, we had Stephen Harper, and we're no further ahead today than when Stephen Harper went to serve as Prime Minister of Canada. And so that argument goes out the window. There is no argument for Alberta staying in Canada. Absolutely none.
None. No, I've challenged people to give me one good reason, and they can never do it. They can just never do it, and especially with the last 3 years, what we've seen with the level of control that the federal government has usurped and taken, which they've had traditionally anyway. It's just that they were never bold enough to actually take it. But I like the point that you brought up about mineral rights, because that's another thing that Americans listening to this show need to understand right now, is that in Canada, you don't own your property. You don't. And you only own the first, 6 inches of topsoil. And so people in Texas, if you remember old Jed Clampett, went out one day, was shooting at some food, and up from the ground come a bubbling crude. And all of a sudden, they packed up the truck, and they moved to Beverly and called Mr. Drysdale, because the oil on their land was theirs. You don't have that here. That oil is stolen, taken to the federal government of Canada, which, Gordon, as far as I'm concerned, is a dangerous enemy of the United States of America and the republic on which she stands every bit as much as Mexico. Gordon Kessler.
I'm sorry, Mike. I lost you.
Oh, I was just saying that what you said about the topsoil and the mineral rights, that wealth is stolen by Ottawa, and this is actually a matter of strategic interest, because Canada, or the federal government, is actually as much of an enemy to the United States of America as Mexico, if not more. It's more insidious. Gordon, your thoughts?
I agree with you. Canada, with all of the oil and gas reserves that we have, with the federal government stepping in and controlling and refusing to allow the exportation of oil and gas from Alberta, has had a huge impact on the pricing in the United States. It's cut off supplies to the refineries and all kinds of things, but one of the reasons that these prices have gone up is because the feedstock has not been able to be delivered from Alberta. And that's all because of Ottawa's legislation. And they have basically strangled the province. And in so doing, it's affected the United States as well. So when Alberta becomes a 51st state, those issues go away. And not only that, we'll get world price for our product instead of discounted prices that we're getting now, because you take the federal government, Canadian federal government, out of the equation, and all of a sudden our prices for our products will go up.
It would be such a tremendous shot in the arm to the economy. And I like that you brought up that Canada actually meddles with U.S. affairs through price controls and things like that. And not only that, but here's another thing that gets brought up with the whole free healthcare thing, right? Canada has enjoyed sitting on the 49th parallel, having the United States as its closest neighbor and the biggest economy in the world, just south of the 49th parallel. Can you imagine if Canada tried to have their big free healthcare system, if, say, they were located where Lithuania is or something like that, without the benefit of having the U.S. economy and the dollar pegging it and propping us up 85% of our GDP? My contention is that Canada wouldn't have been able to get away with what they do so far and then turn around and stab their good neighbor in the back.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, and under Trudeau, I mean, it's just an ongoing program of trying to cut ties with the United States. He's more interested in ties with the World Economic Forum than he is the U.S. So, and earlier you were talking about, you and Val especially, mentioning how these governments and agencies use fear as a tool, and that's absolutely right. That's what the pandemic was all about. It's to get people into compliance through fear and coercion. And so we need to get into a situation where Alberta controls their own destiny, and those kinds of tactics can't be used against people of Alberta.
Right.
And I think by joining the United States, we eliminate some of those possibilities.
100%. What else would you like to get into? We've got about 10 minutes left here, Gordon, so I kind of want to give you the floor. You're somebody that has fought for Alberta independence and was actually spied on. You were messed with. They caused fear in your family. They messed with your life. Like, you're somebody that's actually paid his dues in this battle. And so I want to know what, if you've got 10 minutes here where you want to take the floor, what is the most important key points in the run-up to this referendum on June 30th that Greg has made? What would you leave with the people based on your wisdom and experience in the next 10 minutes? Mr. Gordon Kessler.
Before I go into that, I would like to commend Benjamin Ebel. If anybody out there is interested in how the process can work, and if they want to research and find out what kind of contingency plans were laid by the founding fathers, if they will go and study some of the work that Benjamin Ebel has done. He has done all of the research.
Huge.
All we need to do is read it.
Yeah.
He's done an amazing job. He's just absolutely dedicated to doing the right research, and it's pretty heavy lift, but it's worth every bit of it. So I recommend to go there and take advantage of his hard work. So in my opinion, there is no hope for any province west of Winnipeg to ever enjoy the fruits of their labor or the fruits of their resources, because the federal system is set up so that the West will always be servants to the central system. And I know that sounds redundant, and I've said it over and over again, but it's an absolute fact that the system was not set up the way it is accidentally. It was all done intentionally, and it was all based on the old British system of the outer areas being the producers of raw material, and then everything went back to the center. And so they enjoyed, the benefits of all of the hard labor from the regions. Well, that's still going on today.
Yeah.
And in spite of that fact, you talk about cut off your nose to spite your face. Without that flow of resources to the center, Ontario and Quebec, they're cutting off the source of all of the wealth to spite themselves.
Yeah.
But the immediate effect is it destroys the morale of Alberta. It destroys the middle class. The hardest working middle class in Canada is based in Alberta. You go out and spend a day on a pipeline and watch those guys laying pipe, or you go out to a drilling rig or out to a seismic camp and watch these people work. They are the hardest working middle class people on the planet. And those are the ones that the federal system is attacking.
Yep.
And that alone should be enough to inspire those people to say, we're not going to live under this system any longer. We're going to go where we're appreciated. In the United States, except under Biden, of course, the oil and gas people are highly respected because people have figured out without oil and gas, they can't manufacture, they can't
nothing.
It affects transportation, affects manufacturing. It affects and natural gas. Most people don't understand is used in almost everything in your house, from your carpets to the plastic knobs on your cupboards, and it's invaluable. Diapers, water bottles, they all come from natural gas.
Yeah.
But when you cut that off, people need to know that they are going to suffer greatly. All of these things are going to disappear. And so they need to start laying a plan to save their industry and save their future for future generations. And that plan needs to be sign this referendum. Let Danielle Smith and the rest of the world know that you're serious about your future and the future of your children.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think, and you brought up Benjamin Ebel. The work that he does is fascinating because, yeah, the founders actually encoded into the Bill of Rights and U.S. law the eventuality of this happening. And Benjamin, you know what I think we're going to do, Gordon? If Benjamin, if you're watching, Mr. Benjamin Ebel, I think I want to bring you on next Friday to talk about the provisions made in U.S. law for this to happen, because they did foresee it happening and they set it up. And, I mean, look, Canada was, they talk about the BNA Act and how that Canada took control of its own affairs in a bloodless coup. That's a lie. That is an absolute lie. We've got 5 minutes left. Mr. Gordon Kessler, could you talk about that a little bit?
Well,
the BNA Act.
You're absolutely right. The BNA Act was set up. It was an extension of the British political system, the British economic system, basically. It was set up. It was a document that was set up to steal the wealth from other regions. That's what it was set up for. It wasn't set up to give people more freedom of mobility. It wasn't set up to get more freedom of anything. It was set up to enslave them forever. And there were battles in the process. There were battles on the East Coast, especially there. I'm trying to remember with the Acadians. If you remember, a lot of them had to escape because of the fighting and the threats. They escaped to Louisiana. That's why Louisiana has all of the French people.
Right.
Because they had to get out of it,
Cajuns.
save their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Go on. You've got 4 minutes left here. I want to hear more from you.
I was enjoying you and your preaching there. I thought you were doing a good job. I thought you might give me a little lecture.
No. I'm not. I'm just a talk show host. People want to hear from the guests.
Okay, let me go to the elephant in the room. When these people start talking about pensions and health care,
yeah,
they need to do a little research. Their pensions are already in dire straits, and their health care system is absolutely non-existent.
They're talking about it openly.
Efficiency and productivity. Well, that's why they're pushing this euthanasia stuff.
Yeah.
If you've got any major health issue, they don't want to repair you because that's too expensive. They want you to stick a needle in your arm and pass away because they don't have the funds to take care of the system that people are paying into. It's all been squandered. You know, they're sending these billions of dollars over to Zelensky, the biggest fraud in Europe, and they're propping up a Marxist puppet in the Ukraine. And if you talk to the Ukrainian people, they will tell you that what you're reading and what you're seeing are not really what's happening. Of course, that's brand new concept right there, you know, propaganda from the Western media. That's a new concept.
Yeah.
But so Albertans need to be aware of that. They will have great health care. It's not perfect health care, but it is great health care. Once they join the United States, their pensions will have greater value, not less value,
right? Because
they will receive their pensions in U.S. dollars.
100%. We got one. We're just about out of time here. Everybody, you can go to Americanuckradio.com to view the documents. We're going to be talking about this more as the time for the referendum comes up on the show. Like I said, I get into deep Bible study during the week, but we're going to save Fridays for this. If we don't have the whole episode on Friday about this, we're going to bring it up for at least half of the show in the run-up to the referendum so that people are reminded how important this is. Mr. Kessler, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, in closing, I'd like to thank Greg and Val for they really worked hard on this referendum idea.
Yeah.
I think it's as grassroots as you can possibly be. I've seen this referendum in effect in the United States, here in Arizona, and it is the only way for the masses to get their voices to the top. And I'm just tickled to death with the hard work they've done, and I hope Albertans can appreciate this is your opportunity to regain the freedom that you've lost over the years.
We're out of time, everybody. We've got to go to our break for Mojo 50. Thank you for listening to the radio stations, the Rumble channel, and everywhere else that we are. If you want to contact me, you can do it through Americanuckradio.com. Hit the contact button, or if you want to contribute to this work, there's options available there. Stick around for 9th Hour Prayer if you're listening on Rumble.